There are some signs of stabilization in the spread of COVID-19 in Georgia, but our numbers are still near record levels. Today, we added nearly 5,000 additional cases of the virus. That is below average, but there are often dips on Mondays because of tracking the numbers over the weekend. Right now, we're averaging close to 8,000 new cases every day. After weeks of setting record after record, the number of people in the hospital also seems to have stabilized a bit. Right now, there are 5,500 COVID-19 patients being treated. While case numbers and hospitalizations have slowed, the number of deaths is surging. Last week was Georgia's deadliest for COVID-19, and today we added another 64 names to the number of lives lost. We have the latest updates on the spread of the virus for you in Georgia in your pocket. If you need it, download our free 11 Alive app or visit 11alive.com.